Yo, it's SmallmouthCrush. Are you guys ready to step up your drop shot game? Well, this video is going to be all about drop shotting for largemouth. All the baits that I like to use. Top baits, it's all coming up. Alright, I want to make this video for some time. It's going to be fairly quick because I'm just going to touch base on a little bit of the equipment that I use as far as the weights and the hooks. And then we're really going to dig into some of the soft plastics that I like to use when I'm drop shotting specifically for largemouth. Why did I want to make this video? It's because I drop shot a lot. Not only for smallmouth, but really quite often I'm going to be drop shotting for largemouth. Probably more than most. In fact, on any given day when I'm out on the water, 80% of the time I'm going to be throwing a drop shot at some point during that time frame. It starts as soon as ice is out, as soon as you can get on the water, all the way up to late fall. And there's some key things, key baits that I like to use. I'm excited to share with you guys because I think it's going to help you out. If this is something that's new to you or you want to start getting into it, I'm going to go through my high confidence baits. Baits that I'm always going to have ready to go whenever I'm drop shotting. So there's a couple different scenarios when you're fishing for largemouth when you're drop shotting. For me, it's going to be fishing around hard cover, harder bottom. That could be rocks, gravel banks, clay, any type of hard structure, wood, docks, pilings, things like that. And then I'm also going to be drop shotting in grass. And I do that quite a bit. I prefer to drop shot with an exposed hook. I like to nose hook my baits, just like so. But then there's also times when I'll have to step it up and go Texas rigged. And there's a couple different hooks that I like to use. When I am Texas rigging a bait, I'm going to use the Gamakatsu G-Lock worm hook quite a bit. I carry all different sizes. I find that 3/0 size really does justice for me when I'm flipping in the grass with a drop shot rig. Now there's another approach, and that's with a heavy weight, and I got a bunch of them in here. That's like a half ounce, an ounce. That's kind of power shotting, it's called, really. I do that as well, but I find myself fishing more of a finesse style, lighter weight bait. Sometimes where guys are power shotting, I'll go with that finesse rig with a cylinder weight. Maybe it's not an ounce, but if it's sparse enough vegetation, I'm not talking punching mats, things like that. I'm talking about just some good vegetation, whether it be hydrilla, coontail, eelgrass, whatever the case may be, pads. You know, I'll be able to take a 3/8 ounce weight and slip that in those little holes just as effective as if I was throwing a big weight and punching through, trying to get that reaction bite. All right, so let's talk open water. If I'm fishing around, you know, docks or the hardcover situation for largemouth, most of the time I'm going to be using a spinning reel. I'm going to use a 7-foot medium. I believe the tip here, this is a 7-foot St. Croix Legend Extreme. This is my kind of go-to drop shot rod for largemouth. I'll use this for smallmouth when I'm making casts, but if I'm dropping straight down, that's when I'm going to use a 7-foot medium light. I feel like that tip is just a little bit better on that hook set when those fish are right below the boat in deep water for smallmouth. But of course, we're going to focus on largemouth today. So it's the same type of setup, 7-foot medium. I'm going to use 10-pound braid. I'm going to have a fluorocarbon leader. For largemouth, I won't go probably less than 8. I'm normally going to be using a 10-pound fluorocarbon leader when I'm in that open water scenario. I'll go up to 12 if I'm fishing around pilings or docks or areas where that fish could get me into trouble on that hook set. I will go up to 12, and I've gone all the way up to 15. But generally, that 10 to 12 is going to be where you're going to want to be at with that leader. I'll use a size 1. This is just the Gamakatsu split shot drop shot hook. I've been using that for about 2-3 years now. And it definitely gets those fish hooked perfectly most of the time. And so that allows me to nose hook that fish. So this allows me to nose hook that bait properly. And the weight for me, a lot of times when I'm fishing for largemouth, because let's face it, when I'm fishing for smallies up north, some of those fish have never seen a bait. A lot of those areas are not community holes. I mean, those fish are pretty dumb. I can get away with throwing just a lead cylinder weight, and it works great for me. But when I'm fishing high pressured areas, drop shotting high pressured areas, I'm going to use a tungsten weight. I feel that it will, for one, allow me to feel the bottom just a little bit better, and that's key, especially during certain times of the year, like the spawn. If I want to make sure my bait is, let's say I'm fishing an area where the fish are spawning and I can't visually see them. Well, this weight's going to allow me to feel the bottom, allow me to feel when I come up onto a harder area, which could potentially be a bed, could potentially be an area where those fish are going to be staging. So that round ball tungsten is going to give me a little bit better feel than it would a cylinder. Now, of course, these cylinders come in tungsten, and I like to throw cylinders in the grass. It feels like it just comes better through the grass better when I'm using a cylinder weight as opposed to a round ball. But this round ball will definitely help you feel the bites better. And I do like that tungsten. I think it gives me an edge. And I use that when I'm fishing in tournaments and things like that. If I'm just fun fishing, I know where the fish are and we're just having fun and I want to save money, of course I'm going to pull out my lead weights and just go with it. But if money's on the line and I want to get real serious, I'm going to be using that tungsten round ball when I'm drop shotting for largemouth. Now, when I'm fishing grass, so when I need a Texas rig that hook, I find that G-Lock worm hook probably works out better for me than any other hook I've tried. The Owner, it's called the Owner downshot offset hook, is another hook that I use on a regular basis. But lately, I've kind of been leaning towards the G-Lock worm hook for sure. And they make a lot of different sizes. They'll make a size that'll fit into a small 4 or 5 inch plastic, and they'll make a size that'll actually fit into a big creature bait style drop shot bait that I'll use. So when I'm going to be flipping a drop shot around grass, I'm going to be going with like a medium to a medium heavy rod, bait casting, 7 foot. Dobbins makes a good lineup of rods that I use when it comes to my bait casters, and I'm going to spool it probably with 12-pound fluorocarbon leader. You can go up to 17, but for the most part, that 12 to 14 is all I really need, especially in the areas that I fish. And of course, so I'm using it on a bait caster, and I'm going to have the same type of setup with that weight, but this time the hook's going to be a Texas rig deal, which will just allow me to slip into that grass, into that heavy cover a little bit more efficiently without getting that bait hung up. But if I get away with it, I'm definitely going to be throwing an exposed hook. I feel like I get just a little bit better hookup ratio on that deal. It's the same kind of hook set, whether it be on a bait caster or a spinning rod, whether it be open water or grass, I'm still just feeling pressure and reeling into that fish. And these G-Locks will get that fish hooked pretty well. So you guys watch my videos, you know I like to keep things simple. I'm really gonna have just a handful of colors that I'll rotate with. It's going to be a green pumpkin, black and blue, straight black. I do like the morning dawn color as well for certain bodies of water. There's a couple interesting colors that I'll throw from time to time, and this may work depending on the part of the country that you're from. Some watermelons and some ultra clear water. I find that the watermelon color works really well in lakes in my part of the country, say upstate New York, all the way up through the Midwest, in clear water where you're fishing around grass for largemouth. So let's get into the actual brands here and the style of baits. I'm going to start with my confidence bait. I'm going to start with a bait that probably I have tied on more than anything, and a lot of you guys that watch my videos know that I already throw this, and so the secret's out. It is what it is. I'm still going to whoop your butt in the community holes with this bait, guaranteed, even if you're throwing it. But here it is. This guy right here. It's a Kitech Easy Shaker, 4.5 inch. Morning Dawn Green Pumpkin. Those are the colors I'm going to be going with. I use this all over the country. It works. It is what it is. got a little ribbon. I can't tell you why. For me, it's just, maybe it's because I have it tied on all the time. It's just the deal for me. It really is. They just, as far as my knowledge, they just came out with this new size, I think this year, because I haven't seen in the past. I could be wrong, but they make an Easy Shaker 3.5 inch. This little Finesse guy, yes, I'm gonna be trying this out on some smallmouth action, but I think this is also gonna come into play. Now, I have not used it yet. When I need to downsize, when I get around some high pressured areas for largemouth, this little guy here may fit the bill for those situations. It wouldn't be right if I didn't make a video talking about the Senko, right? We all throw them. We all own them. It's important to get the original, the real one, the one that's weighted perfectly, that has the right balance of salt, that has a great fall rate, and that's going to be this 4-inch here. I throw a 4-inch quite a bit when I'm drop shotting, but I like to wacky rig this guy, so I'll just use that exposed hook just like so, and we'll wacky rig that 4-inch Senko. Of course, smallmouth can't resist that either, but largemouth in high pressured areas, man, they're gonna totally tear that thing up if you get around some fish. I do like black. I like green pumpkin, black and blue. Straight black for me is kind of my go-to color pretty much everywhere. Power Team Lures, Finicky Tickler. Been using this bait since 2010 now. It's legit. I love the action. I love how it works in the water. I'll Texas rig this quite a bit as well with that G-lock, and I'll throw this in grass. When I really want to get finesse in grass, I'm going to Texas rig this Power Team Lure Finicky Tickler. Otherwise, I'm just going to do a nose exposed hook on this. I got into them one time down in Florida with this Finicky Tickler in the Kissimmee grass. Drop shot in the Kissimmee grass along the edges and pitching into the holes. Man, they tore this bait up. Black, green pumpkin, standard colors. They make like a, I guess I would call it the blue fleck. It kind of looks like the blue fleck power worm color. That's another great color with these Power Team baits. But real good finesse bait, one of my go-tos. All right, another great bait that I find myself using more and more is going to be that Jackal eye shad right here. So this is an eye shad. This is in a watermelon. I think it's called watermelon pepper color. And so a lot of times, if I can get away with it, again, trying to nose hook that, I'll throw that in some sparse vegetation along grass edges, things like that. And man, for some reason, it's a great bait in the northern part of the country. I don't know how it works down south. I can imagine it's going to work just fine. But anywhere up north for me, and you're around grass and you got a population of largemouth living in there, you're going to want to try that, man. I'm heading up to some of the Finger Lakes this summer, and I'm really looking forward to putting this bait to work up there. Of course, the Zoom Finesse worm, right? We all love to Texas rig that with a small 16th ounce or 8th ounce weight. Pitch that around some of these areas, especially in tidal bodies of water. It works just as well drop shotting. It sinks. I mean, it'll just lay at the bottom and look kind of stupid. You want to create the action in your drop shot when you're fishing this bait. So you're actually going to lift that up, feel the weight just ever so much, give it a couple twitches with the rod, and then let that fall back down. Let that glide back down, bring it back up, pitch to another piece of structure, and I mean, it's a dumb little bait. I mean, you know, it's just a piece of it's just a 4-inch freaking plastic worm, but it works. Z-Man, Floating Worm Z. Floating Worm Z. What I like about this is that it suspends in the water column. If I wacky rig it, if I nose hook it, it'll certainly put some fish in the boat. Kind of a crazy color. This might not work where you fish, but for me, yeah, it's one of my go-tos. Oh, do I want to do it? I see it up there on the shelf right now. Let me grab it. You know what? We talk about everything on this channel. I'm going to share with you guys my #1 drop shot bait. I know I've talked about this bait in the past because I get a lot of people asking me, where can I find them? It's hard. You're going to have to do your research. eBay, Amazon. I don't know. If I can find the link, it'll be in the description below. These guys are hard to find. They really are. Lucky Strike Bass Magic Shaky Tail, 4 1/4 inch. Don't make a lot of cool colors. They make some watermelons, and I like this little white guy here. He's just kind of a translucent white with a darker back to it. Floats. That's the key to this deal. It's a floater. And I'll nose hook this. I'll wacky rig it too sometimes. I'm already saying too much. This guy here will put some fish in the boat. I don't care what part of the country you're from. If you're not throwing that, you're messing up. You're messing up. But they're hard to come by. You can't, I mean, you might be able to go to the Bass Pro Shops or something and do a search, but it's going to be tough. I got hundreds of them. I found them about 2 years ago now, and just bought pretty much the whole supply that this guy had online, and so I'm set for a while. But that's enough about that. We'll probably even delete that part. All right, don't want to leave anything out, so I'm gonna take this little box here. This is my Finesse worm box. So there's gonna be a lot of baits in here that, oh yeah, there's definitely a couple that we need to talk about. Zoom French fry, of course. Man, I Texas rigged that bad boy, but man, I've seen this bait put some good fish in the boat when you nose hook that on a drop shot. Of course, we got my Kytex in here. Oh, how did we forget about this? The Robo Worm. Christmas purple weenie in clear water is the color of choice for me when it comes to drop shotting. Try to just nose hook this bait. Otherwise, they make some morning dawn colors, of course, depending on the body of water that you fish. And as you can see here, we got some of those baits we don't talk about, but bigger version. I will throw that around some summer deep grass when possible. And the Dream Shot, guys, the Dream Shot. Well, the Strike King Dream Shot, of course, works for smallmouth, but guess what? Largemouth love it too. In fact, I have a variety of different colors. I like to stick with the naturals again. The green pumpkin, KVD magic, colors like that. But there's another bait that I started to experiment with, and looking forward to experimenting a little bit more. Gotta find the right colors to use this bait. But Sheep's Custom Baits. This is pretty much just like a Dream Shot, okay? Same profile as a Strike King Dream Shot. However, this one's gonna float a little bit. It's actually gonna rise and stay off the bottom ever so slightly, and I think that can be a key sometimes when those fish aren't on a bait that's down at the bottom. So one of the keys about drop shot is you're able to present that bait up above the bottom, differentiate your bait from all the other stuff down there, all the other critters, and the way you present that plastic to these fish is key with the drop shot. And with this, you're going to be able to use that just like you would, you know, the Z-Man products, any type of plastic that's going to float. And so I'll show you guys in the tank what I mean when it comes to this type of plastic where it floats. And then I'm also going to put in the description below, I'll share with you guys a link where you can grab some of these baits as well. This tank is extremely important. You have to know what your plastics are doing when you're drop shotting. And this is a great way to actually see the baits in action and see how they work depending on how you move that line, or how are you going to present that bait to these fish. Here's a Strike King Dream Shot. And you can see that it just lays on the bottom and you work some action. It's got real nice action and tail. It's a great finesse bait. But once you stop moving that's just going to rest on the bottom. Now that's not always a bad thing. But I do want to show you Sheep's Custom Baits. I want to show you that one to give you an idea of the difference. So this one here is going to float and not sink right away. See how it'll sit nose down? I give it a little bit of action. Now it doesn't have as much flexibility in the tail as the Dream Shot, but you can see I still get some action in that tail, and it's going to allow that bait to stay up off the bottom and sit there horizontally. Definitely has a time and place. I'm thinking around the spawn for sure. And then of course that weight of that hook. I mean, if you went with a lighter hook, it wouldn't just nosedive. You could probably keep that up suspended, but a neat little bait. All right, let's talk creature baits, because when I flip in heavy cover and flip in a drop shot in heavy cover, or I'm fishing in some grass, man, this little baby destroyer, Missile Baits Baby Destroyer is the deal for me. It's pretty much the only creature bait I'm going to use. I'll also use a baby D-bomb when I don't want that extra tentacles there, and it's just kind of like a smaller creature bait. That works well too. I'm going to see if I can find that footage from this past year when Eric and I got into some good fish drop shotting this bait. But I'm going to take that G-lock, I'm going to Texas rig that. That size 3 works perfect with this bait. I'm able to put that back in there and make that totally weedless. This guy here will put some fish in a boat, especially when you're around some heavy cover.
Wow.
What'd you catch, bro?
I caught
Nice one.
a fatty.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, what did you catch him on?
I'm
How big
throwing.
is he about?
Thank you, John
3
Cruz.
pounds.
He is about a 3-pounder.
Take your bass
Yep.
before he gets you. You don't want him to get you, bro.
Oh,
Broheem.
yeah, man. The Missile Baits Baby D-bomb on a very short drop shot leader. Oh, I call this power shotting.
We're onto something now, fish.
I'm not using 8-pound, 10-pound tests typically. It's a bait caster, soft presentation, 1/4 ounce weight, short leader. You see it, folks. It's called power shotting with 14-pound test. Throw it anywhere. Take a chance. He's a fatty, dude. Yeah. 5 of those in your derby? I
Yeah.
think you'd be doing something.
I think so.
All right, let's figure it out, man. Oh, man. Felt good. He was.
All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. That's pretty much the baits I use on a regular basis. If you don't drop shot for largemouth, or if you haven't drop shot a whole lot, I encourage you to give it a try. I'm going to put some links below of the baits that I can find so you can take a look at those in detail. I'm also going to link a video that I did last year on drop shotting my favorite baits for smallmouth. So if you haven't checked that video out, I encourage you to do so. Let me know in the comments below what's your favorite largemouth drop shot bait. Love to hear it. And of course, until next time, we'll see you guys on the water.